This is going to be good.
Let me hear it! Come on, man.
We're overdoing it.
No, dude.
No?
I think that our listeners come to hope that it's there every time. They expect it.
Okay.
They count on it. What's up, Mindful Warriors? Welcome to another edition of the podcast. It's the Mindful Warrior. I'm Nate Jackson. With me here is Eben Britton. What's up, man?
What's up, my brother?
How are you?
I'm great, man.
It's March 1st today in Los Angeles. We also got Jed Bauer here. What's up, Jed?
What's up?
And Gandalf the Grey.
Candy.
And we have a very special guest in studio today. You want to introduce him? You guys
Let me introduce this guy.
All right.
My brother from another mother. 7-year NFL veteran with the Jaguars and Ravens. We were drafted together to the Jags in 2009. He was the first round. I was the second round. We were the first rookie tackle tandem to start week 1 in an NFL season in maybe NFL history. Gave up 0 sacks against 2 of the best pass rushers in the league, Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney.
Oh.
Really proud and stoked to have my brother Eugene Monroe in the house tonight. Eugene, thank you for being here, man.
We are in the building, and I think I remember that first game very, very differently. Maybe you didn't give up a sack, and I'm not quite remembering what went up on the stat sheet that day, but I remember just yelling for David Garrard, like, hey, I mean, you just watch out for this dude. I tried my best. I gave him everything I had, but, he's about to terrorize you, man. Just get rid of the ball or do something.
And those dudes both were not big guys.
No, not the biggest we would see for
as
sure.
As tackles, do you guys prefer to block smaller guys or bigger guys? Who do you have the most trouble with?
I loved blocking the bigger guys.
It was so easy to block bigger guys that they just couldn't move as well. Yeah.
And we were both pretty athletic tackles. I think that was our strong suit for each of us coming out. And I think, I mean, those little guys, man, Robert Mathis, it was like, fuck, this is a different game. This is a different game. I got to play a different style of game here, you know.
I had to block Robert Mathis as a tight end, and that was fucking tough, man.
Yeah.
I did not do well. He was bigger than me, and he hit a spin move on me, and it sent me to the canvas.
Dude,
both of those guys had the best spin move. Yeah, I mean, Freeney would literally launch himself off of the ground. He'd dig his elbow into you, like he'd disappear in front of your eyes. In 1 minute,
they'd fucking teleport, dude.
Yeah,
and he's so good at that thing. He's perfected that skill. One of the things we talk about on this podcast is where does Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis now get to do that spin move in life?
Yeah, no shit.
You know what I mean? They're out there with this really awesome skill. Like if someone stepped in front of him and tried to stop him from going somewhere, they could bust a spin on him. And that spin made him millions of dollars.
Yeah.
That spin put people on their backs.
Yeah, that spin.
Man, I remember playing that game and then the very next week watching the Colts play Miami. And, I saw Freeney just absolutely, it looked as bad or worse for Jake Long
Stomp
than it did
on
for
Jake
me,
Long's
man.
chest.
Oh, man, it was rough.
Yeah.
And then I felt, it was a boost of confidence. Like, this guy's doing that to everybody. But, we played him again and again and again. And, I was humbled that day. And, I grew a ton from it. I went to the drawing board, learned a lot. And, really had some, good competitive games with them the rest of the way.
No doubt, man. We played we fucking balled that Thursday night game, the second game that year. We almost beat them. Man, that was Peyton. What was that there?
What year was this?
That was 2009, so they were in the Super Bowl
2009.
against the Saints. They were like 16-0, 15-1.
Something like that.
They were really good, man. Peyton was just on fire.
So that was your guys' rookie year, 2009.
Yeah.
So we crossed like trains in the night, man.
Yeah,
that was
right before
that was my
that.
first year out, and I played 2003 to 2008.
Yeah.
2009, I thought I was going to play, of course. Was in Browns training camp for 1 week and got cut. And then it was UFL. I was playing in the UFL.
How'd that go?
It didn't go well. I actually never stepped on the field for a game. I tore my hamstring in practice in the desert in Casa Grande, Arizona. Out on this fucking facility that was like thrown together. It was like like our locker room were like portable trailer buildings. Like they had equipment scattered on the ground. They're like, yeah, find your face masks, guys. But there was some old time guys trying to make it back in the league. Jim Fossil was our head coach. And the labor negotiation, like the CBA there was about to be a new CBA the following year. And so there was some investors who thought, okay, this might result in a work stoppage, so let's try to start this new league in case, the business makes it explode. But anyway, yeah, that's how my career ended right there. But then it even took 1 more year for me to really accept that it was over because I thought, okay, my hamstring's healed. Now someone's going to want me again. It took a long time.
Gene,
but Eugene, you had a different kind of thing.
coming out party.
I was sort of on my way out from the start when I think about it now. I started out my career getting injured. I played my entire rookie season, on a knee that needed surgery, which I did immediately after the season.
So was that bothering you in college?
So I got hurt in college, but then I tweaked it during training camp my first year in the league, and you just sort of deal with it week by week. It wasn't so bad that I couldn't perform, but it just got progressively worse. So I had surgery right after the season. So yeah, really, that was really the story. You play and something else is going on. So after the season, you fix it, right? Like you get another surgery, which each time you do that, you just make things worse for yourself. It's really just a decline, and you can really see it happen with almost every player in the league. Some guys are fortunate enough to, fight in battle and stay healthy, or at least not have significant enough injuries that derail their careers and play a long time, but very few really do. Most people just, are out of the league. Their performance has been decreased because of injury. We look at it and say guys are getting old,
Right.
A guy's 30, he's a running back, that's it. Well, by then he's accumulated so much arthritis that, his performance is diminished. It's not because of his age, but it's because of what's going on in his body from all the wear and tear.
How many surgeries did you have, Gene?
I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. My left shoulder's been repaired twice, and my left knee 3 times.
Man.
How many have you had? Yep.
I've had shoulder, back. That was it. Shoulder and back. And had my appendix removed because my appendix exploded during the bye week of my last year with the Bears. I was out here in L.A. getting
Exploded.
It makes sense though, emotionally and where I was at spiritually at that time. I was not in a good place. And, that's what happens. Our bodies start breaking down in various ways. And
Interesting thing that happens to the runners, to the receivers, DBs, and to some extent like tight ends and running backs, is they're trying to get so much out of their downfield stuff and their cuts, and they're changing their technique to do it. This happened to me. The better I got at the football technique, the more I started having hamstring growing problems because my body did not want to be doing that type of shit, and I was pushing it faster every time, and eventually snap.
Yeah.
Tore my groin off the bone, tore my hamstring off the bone twice, man. So I learned how to run faster, and I learned how to play football faster, but playing it that way just caused a lot of injury.
yeah. One of my old teammates Matt Forte, who I had a chance to block for the Bears, he just retired. That dude had an unbelievable work ethic, and I was just astonished at, the focus and what he put into his body to keep it in shape. Because that guy was, didn't have many injuries, was not, and, to get that far, I think he played probably 8 or 9 years, maybe 10 years as a running back.
I think he's still playing.
He just retired.
Just
announced.
Yeah.
And, that's a really long time at that position. You take so many hits and fucking collisions and the beating on your legs and the cutting and all of that stuff. That's not a position that lasts very long. And just, to the point of Eugene and you, Nate, the amount of time guys have to put into their body to get a 10-year NFL career, it's astonishing. It's insane, the hours that you put into rehabbing your body.
Oh, yeah. It's all year long.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got some friends who are pretty big in the CrossFit scene, and that community is full of people who are extremely conscious of their health and fitness and everything that they put in their bodies and do for them. So it's just funny. I hear, the things that they go through, and really, it's just in preparation for like training and hard workouts. And for us, that was just another piece of the puzzle, right? You had to do that just to prepare your body to go through the rigors of practice.
Yeah, just for one day. Just to get through one day.
Yeah, in the games, the lifting wasn't the point. It was you got to be strong so you could fucking play well in the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what we talk about a lot on the show, Gene, is like that there's no, out here in the real world, there's no culminating moment that is the release or the accentuation on the end of that build-up, the end of that preparation. Every week, you have a new chance to just fucking shake up the Etch-a-Sketch and start over. Yeah, I miss that part of it. But
you have to find an avenue. You have to create something within, a space where you're equally as passionate. And I just say that because it sort of happened for me. And at the same time, I'm very close to a ton of guys who are not in that, didn't have that experience. And it's very difficult. It's something, the game we played, it's literally the best game on the planet. And those experiences that you have that are so intense, in some regard, they're all traumatic as well. They just, it's hard when it happens so frequently for it to just end, right? And then they're so significant in their magnitude, things that you do afterwards don't tend to produce the same amount of excitement. So it's really hard.
So what have you done? What have you done to kind of try to scratch that itch?
The time I'm spending while I was in the NFL, I invested in a medical marijuana business, and upon retiring, I saw an opportunity to jump in immediately, start learning, and really start getting to work at building a business. And so, putting time and effort and stress and strain, the same sort of things you sacrifice in football. It really just felt the same in that regard. And then most significantly, I was on vacation and got the news that we won our Pennsylvania license, which, I really put a lot of energy into. That feeling was, equivalent to, winning, a game against your rival. It was a really awesome experience. So, finding an avenue where you can, sort of create the same sort of buildup, right? All the things that it takes to prepare, because, really it's easy, it's just a different venue, right? You just have to understand, that, the realm that you're playing in might not be football, but, you already have the skill set, to really, maneuver through anything you want to do. And that's really just another thing. It's tough really figure out what you want to do. And again, like I'm fortunate. I had already begun it while I was playing. And sort of just jumped right into it.
So at what point did you decide while you were playing that was a viable option for you? Were you already using it as a medicine and that made you think, hey, I want to get into this business, or did you see it as a business opportunity?
It had nothing to do intrinsically with like my use or using it as a medicine. Although at that point I understood how valuable it was. I really just wasn't as sold or into it, but I did understand one, what the business opportunity could mean, and really furthermore, in my state of Maryland, where the opioid crisis and drugs in general are really rampant, particularly in the city of Baltimore. It was an opportunity to be a part of something that could help solve those issues. And, I put a ton of time and due diligence into looking at, not only what the industry would look like in the state, but, what it would mean for me doing it while I played, and that really didn't take too much thought. I mean, the NFL certainly wasn't in control of anything I invested in, so
right.
I made an educated decision, and I had an opportunity to get involved as soon as I retired.
That's dope, man. I mean, it's great to have to be able to jump into a business. So I think I've found that there's you can bring a lot of the tools of what we learned to be great at football into business. And as a great leader, you can get a lot done. You can bring people together. You can inspire people. You can educate people. What have been some of the struggles you've come up against since retiring?
Well, most recently and really daily, and dealing with it now. A lot of the things that I dealt with post concussion. They've been really bothersome on a daily basis, and like really sort of derailed my life at this point. All the things that I was doing, up until a few months ago, I really felt fantastic, on all fronts, and really thought that everything, was really good in my life. I mean, everything was excellent. And really had no reason to think or ever feel that anything was different. And I always, pretty much since the last concussion I had, the last season I played, I took a shot on the back of my head and also on the side of my head, and definitely had a concussion and was out for 4 weeks, and probably should have never stepped back on the field. And really since then, I've got sort of this like pressure sort of headache on the left side of my head, and at first it was sort of infrequent, but I noticed that it was happening more often, and it got to a point where it was happening every day, and at this point it's pretty much all day, and it's to the point now where it's just so consistent. I'm almost, I don't want to say getting numb to it, but just getting used to it. And that sometimes during the day it gets really bad, and I get debilitating headaches, and it'll literally ruin my day. So I've been dealing with that on a daily basis, and really taking a step back from everything that I was doing. I was in the best shape of my life, really, and I stopped training for a good month and a half, 2 months, or at least consistently. I was getting intense anxiety even thinking about going to the gym, and for no reason, or at least I thought there was no reason, right? So people see me and think like, man, he's doing great. He feels awesome. Look at him. He's ripped up. Oh my goodness. How's he doing this? People ask me how. And, I just, tend to be consistent, and I'm so used to dealing with pain that, it's sort of insignificant. Everything hurts anyway. So, I just can, go to the gym every day and work through all the things that hurt, right? And, but it got to a point where, I was so, used to ignoring all of those things. Although I was addressing them, I was doing rehab every day on all the issues that caused me problems on a continual basis. But, there were things that, I just wasn't addressing. And they became a problem, and they compounded, and, not just the things with my body, but, the issues I was having, with headaches. As the headaches got worse, my sleep decreased, and, I actually started tracking it, and I was sleeping, pretty much less than an hour, even if, I was laying in bed for, 4, if I was even able to, stay asleep for that long. So I had all of these issues start to compound, and
sleep. You couldn't sleep for more than 4 hours?
I couldn't sleep for more than 45 minutes. My friend turned me on to this sleep tracker, sort of fitness tracker called the Whoop, and it sort of helped me, start to understand some of my sleeping patterns. And, my mind would race, and I'd wake up with intense headaches and be sitting at the edge of my bed just holding my head up in my hands. And this is on a daily basis. And, I still, to this day, dealing with it. So I've been, going around seeing doctors, trying to figure out what's going on. And, it's tough when no one really has a real handle on the issue.
Yeah.
What are the doctors telling you?
Well, a number of things. Either that, it's just, you're dealing with, post-concussive symptoms, which, it's been a pretty long time since I've had one. So, that's, to me, it's, let's dig deeper, so I have, and, I've gotten some scans done, and like even thinking about what those results, show me it's scary. So I'm really just at a point where I've taken a backseat to everything in my life and totally focused on my health, being healthy, and not just me, for my family as well. And in that respect, things are awesome, and I'm doing much better.
Sleeping a little more now?
Definitely doing much better in spirit. The sleep thing is just something I'm continuing to work on. Thinking maybe like, hey, maybe it's sleep apnea. Nope, it's not that either. So, I'm just waking up with headaches and really just dealing with, it's like I had a concussion yesterday, every single day.
What was the name of the place we went down to in Ventura or Oxnard or whatever that was?
Pure?
Yeah, that brain rehabilitation center?
Yeah.
Where you go there in a controlled environment. They keep you there. They want to keep you there for 30 days, and they really, I don't know. I mean, do you think that would be a good thing for Gene to check out?
I think that could be a good thing, yeah.
Because NFL insurance will pay for it. You guys still have your Cigna, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, apparently it'll pay for it. And it's the type, they said they've had a lot of good results, and it seems to be what they do is, I mean, they isolate you a little bit, but they treat you really well as far as diet, meditation, all the things we talk about here. It costs a lot, but as long as you're not paying for it yourself. But do you think that would be practical for people with head injuries to try that, Eb?
I think it would. I don't think it could hurt, I think
because if you're having daily,
like that,
Gene, because if you're having daily symptoms, man, like,
does anything soothe it? Does anything lessen it?
I've I've tried to use different forms of cannabis, whether it's different formulas with ratios of CBD and THC that are different, or just massive amounts of either. And it's difficult. Sometimes they tend to just take the edge off, but like nothing's totally solved the problem, but it certainly does help take the edge off.
So if you don't do the cannabis, then it gets much worse?
The headaches still come for me, but if I'm able to medicate when it does come on, it does tend to help a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, I know you're a clean eater. You're on point with that. You do meditate. You've talked about that. Something I've read a lot about, seen a lot about, there's a lot of good science behind, is the use of psilocybin to treat cluster headaches. And I know that's not necessarily what you have per se, but I think it's all due to a massive amount of inflammation and, some destroyed neurons, obviously, but those can be rebuilt. Those can be reformed and regenerated, I believe, through various herbal medicines or practices. And, that's something, just throwing that out there. I'm worried about my brother, and
yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate. I know for a fact, because I've spoken to definitely over a handful of other former players who some didn't even play as long, and even some guys who were in the league for a long time, but didn't have the game the snaps on the field on game day, but are still dealing with issues like this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, there's college guys out there, high school guys even.
Yeah.
I got friends that played in high school, and they started playing when they were 8, so they played 10 years of football as well, and some of them are suffering.
Yeah.
This is definitely something that a lot of people can relate to. We've been getting some emails about guys who play college football, Division II, in the middle of America, who were listening to our podcast and are having some of the same issues, not only with our bodies, but with the real world as it compares to playing sports.
Someone presented to me at a dinner a few nights ago some information. They were just shocked how when they looked at the data of players who retire and who are bankrupt and or divorced and just having issues, the number that you look at it and it's so significant, but when you look at the statistics that come out when 99 and more percent of players have CTE, and all of the things that lead to those issues are the symptoms of it that guys are experiencing. So I think it's an issue that really needs to be addressed, right? Guys' lives are ruined, and they leave the game. There's no one there, nothing there. I know guys whose careers were ended. The last play they ever played, was a concussion, and there's no follow up. No one cares. No one reaches out to even ask how you're doing. And there's so many guys that cycle through. And really, our population of men have those issues, but people have traumatic brain injury all around, right? Not just in our sport, but in other sports certainly, and just within life too. So anything we can do in terms of researching, particularly how cannabis might help, I think it'd be wise to take a look at this point. And it's not just me saying this. There's physicians at this point all around the world who say this as well.
Yeah, man, and the science is coming out in favor. And I think the NFL, it might be in their best interest business-wise to start getting behind this.
Yeah.
They're going to see it, I think. I mean, look, you can't have all your former employees with fucking post-concussive symptoms every day for the rest of their lives.
Trying to sue the organization.
They're going to be embroiled in lawsuits for the rest of their existence unless they get a hold on it. And I think they could revisit their idea of total health of their players, have cannabis as one of the prongs in there. The hard part, like we were talking about last week, is that when a guy leaves, he leaves by himself.
Yeah.
Alone into the real world, no one around. They don't, and it's really easy to release a guy with concussion problems because they're not actually symptomatic. It's like, yeah, you're fine, your body's fine.
What's wrong with you?
Sign this, fit to play football. You're on the streets.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier. Before the pod started was, I've been thinking about, back through my career, a lot of these guys, some teammates I had who, at that time, for reasons unknown to us, sort of faded out of sight of the team.
Yeah.
They fade out of the locker room. You start seeing them walking down hallways with coaches, or then like the graduate assistants or whoever it is that's kind of escorting them from place to place. Hearing stories from this guy saying like, I don't know, man, he says he's depressed. He doesn't know what's going on. And thinking to myself then, oh, that's weird. What's wrong with that guy? But now looking back going, oh, that motherfucker just had one too many concussions. So and is experiencing those symptoms, and he's a young kid and has no idea what's going on because all he's been doing is playing the game he loves since the time he was 10 years old.
And so is the most important thing preventing those hits from happening at all, or treating them after they happen correctly before getting out on the field? Because really, what is the solution here? Is it to change the style of play so you don't hit like that anymore, or is it to treat you better after you do get hit like that?
There's, at this point, there's really just, there's really just one thing that, it's no one wants to talk about, and this sport is so deeply ingrained into our culture. Owning a day of the week for half the year. It's what, brings families together, right? It means so much. But, inherently, the very, objective of the sport, what's required to play it causes brain damage. There's no getting around that. There's no helmet you can put on your head, to mitigate that, and we know that. Statements against that are really just at this point evil. The science out there is real, and we're seeing guys who are struggling. I'm 30 years old with headaches on a daily basis. My friends who don't play football or never played, they don't live life like that.
Right.
That's not normal. There's some issues that the NFL needs to face in a more realistic way.
So does that mean more robust healthcare for you now, essentially, for former players now, to treat on the back end? Because we know the game's violent. We went in kind of knowing that. Of course, we didn't know about the brain damage that we were incurring at the time. No one really knew that. Yeah, it was always thought that the helmet protects the brain because the skull doesn't crack.
And you only get concussions on certain weird hits.
Right.
You don't, that's not really something that happens all the time.
Right. So we know that part now.
And we also know that the concussions aren't the most significant events that cause the issues. It's the repetitiveness of the hits.
Yeah, it's the lineman.
Right.
The CTE has been concentrated most in offensive and defensive linemen in the findings, especially, that recent one that came out about 118 out of 119 or something like that. Yeah. Well, 67 of them or something like that were linemen. So it's in the trenches where this disease was born. It's not in the fucking hits down the field on a defenseless receiver. That doesn't cause CTE. Those are one-time hits that the league can, get all up in a tizzy about, fine a guy, change a rule or two. That we're not going to allow this in our league, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, down in the trenches, these guys continue to lean forward and at the snap of the ball, fire off and smash.
Right into each other's heads.
So how do you change that smash? I mean,
There's
2-point stance.
2-point stance, smaller linemen, shorter play clock.
You literally have to change the very nature of the game. I don't see a possibility there where it makes sense. I mean, you have to have that sort of combat with the way the game's set up. You just have violence. To. There's no getting around those confrontations up front. If you're running the ball, you have to move forward on offense, and the defense certainly has to try to push back. And when that happens, big men collide.
Right. So you can't eliminate it, of course.
Well, Gene said it earlier. I mean, it's the greatest game that the world has ever known. Essentially, you've got physical collisions, you've got running, sprinting, jumping. You've got a full expression of the physical art form, so to speak.
You got 22 characters alive for everyone to see and know personally on a daily basis now.
Going as hard as they can at each other. Training year-round, day after day, to be this thing that you're watching.
Injected with the bloodlust of the masses.
You're fucking right. And it's riveting.
Yeah, you feel no pain out on that field.
It's gladiators, man.
Yeah.
I mean, however many thousands of years ago in Rome, there were fucking swords in their hands and chariots and lions.
For that reason, I don't think football is going anywhere. And you can actually change some rules, and I think it'll survive if you want to tinker with why the head is being fucking turned into hamburger meat. 150, the game was around for 150 years. Around a civil war is when it was originated in this country, and it's kind of evolved since then. At the turn of the century, 100 years ago, they had to change some rules because there was no forward pass at that time. It was all just fucking. You think it was brutal now? It was just bodies flying at each other. There was no misdirection. It was the flying wedge. It was fucking just
kill each other.
3 yards in a cloud of dust. There was no action around the sides, no passes down the field, nothing spread out, no misdirection. It was two mobs fucking chopping at each other.
Yeah.
And these dudes were dying. I mean, these college kids were dying. 19 kids died in 1 year, 1905, in the game of football. So Teddy Roosevelt.
I believe it.
Teddy Roosevelt.
It's a rough game,
yeah,
fellas.
Man. Teddy Roosevelt. I'm gonna give you guys. I think I've talked about this before.
Yeah, to throw it out there.
But he convened. But Teddy
Total
Roosevelt
bloodbath.
convened a summit at the White House, you guys, and brought football leaders from around the country to figure out how to fucking make the game safe enough to appease the masses, but also still exciting, still dynamic. They introduced the downfield pass. They doubled the first down length from 5 to 10 yards. They abolished the mass formations, and they created a neutral zone. So if you get all the most brilliant minds together, have Donald Trump.
There he is.
Host them in the Oval Office.
Come on.
Hey, we're going to get
guys,
this right,
we got
guys.
Chip Kelly. We got Billy Belichick.
Make football great again. But I think you could tweak the rules a little bit.
Here's where I try not to lose my damn mind.
No, it's not going to get political.
Yeah, we're not Trump supporters.
You don't have to be political.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
to lose your mind
over this fucker.
Well, it's we're in the dark ages, fellas, but we're coming up to a golden renaissance. So.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, I heard that the other day. In acting class yesterday, actually, talking about this famous acting teacher in France named Peter Brook, and they were saying, did people freak out during the dark ages and just drop everything they did and leave their homes and fucking say fuck it? No, they kept on. So he's like, the point being there was the dark ages and then there was a golden renaissance, and we just have to ride these waves through the times as we evolve as a species. So I think we're in a dark age right now, fellas. Hopefully we can make it to the golden age.
I think we're in control of that, and I think you can put yourself into the golden age every single day when you wake up. You get to choose whether to put yourself in the fucking dark ages or in the golden ages.
Ow!
And a lot of it has to do with that fucker we were just talking about. Turn off the TV, put down the fucking phone, and fucking you won't see that guy anymore. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you still have to interact with people. For example, in Venice, driving around on those fucking electric bird scooters.
Yeah, which you love.
I'm already plotting the way to fucking sabotage this whole fucking thing.
Don't lay it out here, dude.
I'm not going to.
They might be listening.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a fucking crazy time to be alive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So we can't go backwards, okay? What's done is done. Damage is done.
Can't.
So how do we help ourselves going forward?
Trudge forward.
And
how do we keep trudging forward?
There is no choice but to trudge forward.
There you go, my brother.
And so what do you hope for the next generation of players to, like, how can we improve the conditions for them after the fact to be able to get support medically, therapy? What do you think would be good for former players?
This is such a massive conversation that you're bringing up, man, because there's so many issues, and where do you start? You know, is it addressing the issues on the field? You know, so that all these secondary issues, you know, don't exist, right? You know, it's really a conundrum.
I'm just saying, for guys like us who are done playing, and we have medical issues, and perhaps headaches, perhaps hip problems, perhaps difficulty finding a new profession or a new way of life, or marital problems, or whatever it might be.
Addiction.
We all have our own struggles. What are you not getting?
A lot of those struggles are synonymous across all of the guys.
Right.
What do you think these guys need to hear to reinvigorate themselves, to find that energy, to get back on the horse and fucking ride off into the sunset, a fucking hero that they are?
Well, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
You're a hero.
Ow!
Exactly what you said. You know, maybe guys just aren't in situations or you know where that can happen, or where they're hearing that, or don't know what they want to do. Right? People like to, sort of speak down on an athlete if, he struggles after he's done, being an athlete. But no one really looks down on someone who's been in a career of politics for 20 years and then, rides off and does something else.
Yeah, like an ice skater or something even. They have an easier transition, I feel like. Like the tough guy
Into
sports.
what?
I don't know, just regular life. Like the tough guy sports, it's like they don't allow you to be anything else.
I think anything you do competitively, though, is going to leave a hole in you.
Yeah.
At the end.
For sure.
But you certainly have to find something that you can be passionate about, whatever it is.
What is that thing for you? Is it business? Is it cannabis? Is it
cannabis business?
You know what, man? All of it sort of relates to, ultimately, to the trickle down in some capacity, or very directly in some cases, being able to help people. When you can see it live on a daily basis in front of your eyes, it's incredible. And then reading all the responses for what, like, all of the work you've done, everything you put into being able to provide, something to people, whether it's, in a dispensary or up on stage speaking to people who...
Well, you've opened some dispensaries. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, my business has dispensaries.
I mean,
and
that's a fucking cool feeling, man.
Yeah.
You're providing medicine.
Yeah. I spoke
That's
about
really
it
cool.
earlier when, that feeling that I got, from, our company, winning an opportunity in Pennsylvania, in having events like that are very, extreme, and, it was sort of equivalent to winning a game, right? Because, the level of work that you just know everyone involved had to put in to achieve that goal.
That's cool, man.
So would you recommend cannabis as a new career for former athletes, football players in particular?
That is such a loaded question.
That's what we do here, man. We
You know,
load them up.
We
really-
load them things.
It really gives me, sort of nowhere to start. I mean, there's so many avenues. If you say cannabis, it's really just saying, here's another place for business opportunity where, essentially, it mirrors most other industries in terms of all of the, available jobs and positions, if you're looking for employment, or the types of businesses there are to, be created. And as the industry matures, more things are needed, and we're seeing, more diverse companies. So, it's such a loaded question because, if you're interested in marijuana, that's great. But, if you're talking about, a business, then, if you have direction, then, it's kind of a playground, and we're seeing a lot of people be really creative, and really smart about what they're doing. So, I think the opportunity abounds. You just have to do some work and put a handle on what it is you want to do.
I'll take that as a yes.
I think it's a good place to look if you're looking to start a
because
business.
football players do have a unique kind of opportunity in this field, as we've all discovered.
Yeah.
Because people want to hear what we're saying about
In
this
some,
thing.
in
They
one
underst-
form or another.
Right, they want to hear it, and they're inspired by it for whatever reason. They're inspired by the fact that we are high-level athletes and also like cannabis.
Yeah.
And the two might have been related. So let's find out if they are, type of thing.
Yeah.
And so when we go to these things and we talk, like you said, we do inspire people to think about things differently. But California, man, there's over $2 million paid to the city already from just dispensary applications. Did you read that?
Wow. I
They've already
didn't
made
know
over $2 million in just applications.
in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
That's great. It's
Yeah,
awesome, man. Good.
And I imagine
Put
there's
it to good use.
Yeah. I imagine there's a lot of ex-football players living in California, living in LA.
There are tons of football players in the industry all over, not just in California, but in other states as
You're
well.
right. I keep hearing guys' names.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, oh yeah, this guy, he's a former NFL player. He's doing this thing.
And athletes for care, man. We got guys from girls from all kinds of sports.
Yeah.
So this is not a football issue. Cannabis is not a football issue. Cannabis is not a sports issue. Cannabis is a earth issue. And as we were talking about before, all mammals have endocannabinoid systems.
That's right, dogs.
And so this is
cats.
really about it's about this plant. It's not about us really. It's as far as having played in the NFL, but we can be a good messenger for it.
Well, it's all part of this movement of going back to the earth, back to the heart, going back to the plants rather than the sterilized laboratory of the West,
I just wonder
so
when
to speak.
the healthcare system is going to catch up to this and offer it, because it's going to reduce costs for them.
Yeah.
I don't take any pills except when I'm partying. Just kidding. I don't take any pills, man. And all I do is some cannabis when I feel like I want it or need it.
Yeah.
And other than that, I'm a very cheap patient to ensure.
You exercise.
I exercise, and I try to eat well.
You eat right.
Yeah.
I mean, there you go, right there. You've got three. You got a solid base with 3 keys.
Yeah.
Medicine, food, exercise.
I wonder if I would be now. I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. I'm not actually saying this.
Okay.
But
That's fine
would
if
we
you
be
are.
healthier if we didn't smoke cannabis?
I don't believe that's true.
I don't think so. I think that's bullshit. I think that as
Would
we
we
get
sleep
older,
better? Would we be?
No.
I wouldn't sleep at all, let alone the hour or so I get now, and I'd be in pain, and probably needing to go back to taking some pills to deal with inflammation. I'd be in a world of hurt.
There are so many toxins and fucking free radicals and things affecting our body in a negative way. Our food has less nutrients than it did however many years ago. Our bodies need more support than they ever have in this time, with pollution, all this shit, So I believe that it's becoming more and more of an essential nutrient for people to get some sort of cannabinoid supplement into their life.
How do you feel about cannabis and pregnancy?
Well, I think that in Jamaica they've done it for many years. Pregnant women still consume cannabis throughout their pregnancy, and they have no ill side effects.
Right.
I can't say for sure, but I would imagine the way it works, because this is something that maybe you don't want to be smoking it when you're pregnant, but consuming like a tincture or a pill or an edible, you're only enhancing you're optimizing your body, the function of your body's own system, the endocannabinoid system.
Do you think it's stimulating the endocannabinoid system of the fetus, which will make it better prepared to accept cannabis when it's born?
These are all questions that, the very thing that we've been speaking about, need to really, get a handle on, through research. We need to be able to look at cannabis. I mean, we understand some very hardcore drugs to a very high degree, but know very little truly, how cannabis is interacting in the body. And, there are people looking to do this research, and unfortunately, there are still some barriers, the government preventing some of this stuff to happen. But, all of these questions you ask, they're fascinating. People, look at them, a lot of the time with emotion, how they feel about cannabis. But, whether or not, the question of a woman using cannabis while she's pregnant, whatever you feel about it, right, we know that it happens, and we need to understand what's going on. It could be very bad. And if so, we definitely need to know. And if not, then, now we know that if it happens, there's no detriment, right? But either way, this is why we do research, so we can understand these things.
Exactly. And they need to do the same thing with the brains of football players. You got half the guys using it, and all of them are taking headshots. So do some research and find out who's taking what and how their brains have responded. I mean... But the federal illegality, of course, is a problem. Where are we at on that? Isn't Marvin Washington involved in a new lawsuit?
Yeah.
It's suing the government.
Wasn't it recently thrown out?
Was it?
Was it thrown out?
There was one case that I think was recently thrown out. I want to say it was that one.
Yeah, they were suing the government for, I don't know, the scheduling and trying to get them to deschedule it.
Yeah, criminalization of it.
Yeah.
Push back against it. I don't know, man. I mean, it doesn't even matter, because people are going to get weed, grow weed, do whatever the fuck they want with weed
that's the
anyway.
Thing. That's the thing, It's whether it's legal or illegal.
It does matter. It matters a lot.
It doesn't matter for me.
It
matters a ton. And maybe
sure.
not for you guys, because you guys are not African American, but it does matter, because if things do not change, then people who look like me will continue to be harassed by police because of marijuana, and have their lives ruined because of it. And I know that firsthand, coming from a community and a family, quite frankly, that was really derailed, because of marijuana. So certainly it's definitely important for the laws to change. No adult, no one, really should be punished for having it, for one, right? You don't go to jail because you have a bottle of Tylenol, or a bottle of Pepto-Bismol, or anything like that. It just doesn't make sense at this point, right? So, it's important for things to change.
100%. San Francisco commuted the marijuana sentences of a lot of the inmates and people, which is cool.
Yeah,
They wiped that exposure.
It's
that was
definitely good to see, the movement that's happening here in California. It's quite different than, what's going on back east for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid of it getting commercialized to the point where this sacred plant that I love and gives me joy and peace, happiness, health, I sleep well, I think well, I love well, with this stuff is now turning into fucking Disneyland. And it scares me a little bit. It does. But I think that's why it's important for us all to make sure we just don't do things we don't want to do when it comes to cannabis. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to endorsing it, when it comes to, I don't know, I just feel like it's important for us to stand our ground with cannabis and be honest about what it means to us.
Yeah.
Don't you think so? I mean, we're about to go on
Absolutely.
CNN and talk about it. And, CNN's going to do what they're going to do to whatever we give them. But it's going to be about their production, their narrative.
Right.
And I don't think cannabis should be about celebrities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
But I guess it has to be to get the message out. So that's where it's a catch-22. It's a delicate game to play.
it
Do
is.
you guys agree?
I think, regardless of what anyone feels about, how cannabis should be viewed, what's happening is that it's becoming global, it's becoming accessible to a lot of people, in a very big way, right? There's transactions happening all around the globe. There's cannabis being legally shipped across the, countries at this point now. So, there are a lot of people who, have been involved with cannabis for a very long time and responsible, quite frankly, for what it looks like today. But, the world is changing. And really, it's already happening, as I speak right now.
The machinations are happening. Things are in motion, you mean? Towards the industrialization, towards the...
It's already happening. Cannabis is definitely, in some regards, moving towards being, viewed as another agricultural crop.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an important step on the conceptualization of it.
Another cheaper way to make a bunch of shit, too.
A better way to make stuff. My thing is that we continue to have high quality access, And to your point, Gene, you're absolutely right. I mean, on a legal level, it totally matters. I was saying from an access standpoint, of course, it's going to be more difficult to access, but the decriminalization and the clean slates need to happen. But, man, it's, fuck. Where do we go from here?
With the cannabis?
With cannabis, I mean, I think that... I
Look,
was just saying for the pod, man.
Oh, yeah, for the pod. Well, that's about an hour, man.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's...
You got anything you wanna shout out?
Before we get out of here.
Get out of here.
You're in LA. What are you doing here in LA? Do you want to plug anything? Do you want to?
Yeah, I'm sort of just here randomly. I was on a trip, one of the first I've taken for GTI, and it's one I was looking forward to. So I was happy to get up and do something I was excited about. And I was out here and got a call from Brian at DFCR, and I didn't realize that there was opportunity here in LA. So I left Seattle and flew here. So I'm only here for a blip. But it's always cool, because this opportunity sprung up. Eben, I think you reached out, and I don't think you knew I was here.
No, dude.
Or
I
coming
talked to you
here
in Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah.
We talked in Seattle, and I was like, "Hey, this thing's happening Thursday," and you were like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna come." And then the next day, I got a text, "Eb, I'm sending a package to your house."
Yeah.
And then you came, and then we got a workout in.
I'm sending a package myself.
Well, I didn't expect to be on the road, and there's an event we got an invite to And all I had was a bunch of like workout gear with me, and I just called my wife and asked her if she could find some more proper attire. So she shipped a box to Eben's house.
Oh yeah,
for
we
me.
need a suit tonight, Nate.
I haven't even gotten anything back from those people. I'm not going to that thing.
You're not gonna go?
No, dude, they didn't fucking respond to me. Is the communication so bad? I'm just.
Wait, you were on this text.
That has nothing to do with tonight. This is what we got to do now, right?
It was both.
Oh, it's at the same venue?
No, different. Later.
Well, I don't know.
All
We gotta wear suits?
Man. Fuck it, man.
You don't have to. I mean,
All right.
Show up like this, dude.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Fucking dick hanging out.
I mean, I tend
this
to
is me.
I tend to wear what I want anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
Throw
usually
a blazer
just,
over that. You'll look perfect.
I'm usually just like in clothes, ready to like hit the gym or do rehab or something.
We can just go in for a minute and just say we have to go back and work out. We'll
Yeah.
just fucking leave.
Just go bro out.
Well, it was great having you, man.
It's an awesome time, man.
Really a treat to have you on the podcast.
It's cold back home too.
Yeah, you get to warm up a little bit. For myself, for Nate,
Website, Twitter, questions.
I always forget. Check us out on iTunes, guys. Hit subscribe, please. Share it with a friend. If you enjoy it, talk about it. Tell everybody what you think. Send us an email. Send us a note. Drop us a line. Ask us some questions. We'd love to hear from you guys. Check us out on iTunes. We're also on Stitcher, TuneIn, on Instagram at Mindful Warrior Podcast, on Twitter at Mindful Pod, Facebook, Mindful Warrior Podcast, Facebook page.
We got a MySpace page up, guys. And,
MySpace.
Mindful Warrior / go fuck yourself.
They also have a Black Planet page up. These guys don't know about that. But
I don't want to
there's
know about that.
Yeah.
What is that, Nate? No, don't tell me, Eugene.
It's just like, one of the old, it was just like MySpace.
Oh, my God.
But
Fuck that shit, dude. I got enough going on.
Yeah, right. No more social media.
Well, we love you guys. For Gandalf, for Jed, for Gene and Nate, I'm Eben. Peace.
Yeah.
Later.
Thanks for listening to the Mindful Warrior Podcast, brought to you by Athletes for Care, a health and wellness resource for athletes of all ages. Don't miss out on Nate's books, Slow Getting Up and Fantasy Man,